My beloved child, listen closely to what I am speaking into your heart in this moment, because you did not arrive here by accident, and these words did not find you without purpose. There have been days when you carried more than anyone around you could see, moments when you kept moving forward even though something within you felt tired, unsettled, and quietly overwhelmed. You learned to smile while your mind was crowded with questions. You learned to answer others when no one seemed to notice that you were the one who needed reassurance. You kept showing up, kept fulfilling your responsibilities, kept caring for the people you loved, even when your own heart felt stretched beyond what you thought you could bear. I saw all of it. I saw the nights when sleep would not come easily because your thoughts refused to become still. I saw the conversations you replayed in your mind, wondering what you should have said, what you should have done differently, or whether something could still be repaired. I saw the concern you carried for those close to you. I saw the uncertainty that made the future difficult to understand. I saw the moments when you looked ahead and could not clearly see which direction your life was taking. Nothing about your struggle has been hidden from me. Not one tear escaped my attention. Not one quiet prayer was lost. Not one sigh was meaningless. Even the words you could not form were known to me before they ever reached your lips. You may have wondered whether I was listening because the answer did not come when you expected it. You may have questioned whether I was near because the situation did not change as quickly as you hoped. You may have interpreted silence as distance and waiting as abandonment, but my child, I have never left you. My silence was never proof of my absence. My quietness was never indifference. While you were trying to understand what was happening around you, I was already present within what you could not see. While you were asking whether anything was moving, I was working beyond the limits of your perspective. While you were wondering whether your prayers had reached me, I had already heard them completely. You see moments individually, but I see every moment connected. You see the pressure of today, but I understand what led you here and what is already being prepared beyond this hour. This is why I am calling your attention back to me now. I do not want your heart to remain trapped in the belief that you have been carrying everything alone. You have never been alone. Even in the seasons when people misunderstood you, I understood you. Even when others saw only your outward strength, I knew the exhaustion beneath it. Even when you could not explain what was happening inside you, I knew the exact weight you were carrying. There were private battles no one else witnessed. There were moments when you questioned your own strength because you felt yourself becoming weary. There were disappointments you kept hidden because you did not want to burden anyone. There were fears you pushed down because you believed you needed to remain strong. Yet none of those things were invisible to me. I was there in the room when you felt isolated. I was near when your thoughts became heavy. I was with you in the ordinary moments when you assumed nothing spiritual or significant was taking place. My presence was not limited to the moments when you felt peaceful. I remained with you through confusion, fatigue, waiting, disappointment, and uncertainty. That is why this moment matters. You are being reminded of something your heart desperately needs to remember. You were seen even when you felt overlooked. You were heard even when there seemed to be no immediate response. You were held even when your emotions told you otherwise. The struggle did not escape my attention, and your endurance was not meaningless. I have watched you continue when stopping would have been easier. I have seen you carry responsibilities when you felt unprepared. I have seen you choose patience when frustration was rising within you. I have seen you whisper prayers with little strength left. I have seen you wake up and try again after nights filled with concern. Your journey has never been hidden from me. My beloved, there comes a moment when a long season of silent endurance reaches a turning point, and I want you to understand that you are standing in such a moment now. Something has shifted, not because you forced it, not because you finally found the perfect words, and not because you suddenly became stronger than before, but because the time has come for you to recognize that I have been involved all along. Your situation has been before me. Your pain has been known. Your questions have been heard. Your life has not been unfolding outside my awareness. You have spent enough time wondering whether I noticed. I noticed. You have spent enough time asking whether I cared. I cared through every moment. You have spent enough time fearing that nothing was happening simply because you could not see movement. My work has never depended on your ability to perceive it. There are things that can be taking shape long before they become visible to you. There are changes that begin in places beyond your immediate awareness before they ever reach the circumstances you can touch. This is why I am asking you not to judge my presence by what you can see today. Do not measure my nearness by how quickly a problem disappears. Do not measure my faithfulness by whether your emotions feel calm every hour. I am greater than the moment you are standing in, and I am closer than the fear that has tried to convince you otherwise. My child, you have asked, why now? You have wondered why these words are reaching you at this particular time. The answer is simple, because your heart is ready to hear what it could not fully receive before. There were seasons when exhaustion spoke louder than hope. There were moments when disappointment colored everything you saw. But now I am drawing your attention away from the noise and back toward the truth of my presence. This moment is intentional. I am not asking you to understand every detail of what has happened. I am asking you to recognize who remained with you through it. I was there before the struggle became visible. I was there while it grew heavier. I was there when you thought you had reached the limit of your endurance, and I am here now as you begin to realize that your story has not been abandoned. There is a difference between being delayed and being forgotten, and you have not been forgotten. There is a difference between silence and absence, and I have never been absent. There is a difference between not understanding what I am doing and believing that I am doing nothing. My beloved child, I have been present in every chapter, including the ones you would never have chosen for yourself. So allow this truth to settle deeply within you. Your hidden pain has been seen, your private prayers have been heard, your weary heart has been known, and your life has remained within my care. The season that made you question whether I was near did not remove you from my sight. The nights that felt endless did not weaken my attention toward you. The uncertainty that clouded your path did not confuse me. I have never lost sight of you. I have never stopped listening. I have never stepped away. And now I am calling you to lift your eyes from everything that has made you feel forgotten and recognize that I have been nearer than you knew. This is not the end of your story. This is the moment when you begin to understand that even in the silence I was there, even in the waiting I was working, and even in the struggle you were never carrying your life alone. Now that you understand I have seen every hidden battle and remained near through every silent season, I want you to receive a deeper truth. You were never meant to spend your life standing beneath the weight of accusation. For too long you have allowed old voices to speak as though they still possess authority over you. Some of those voices came from people who judged you by a single moment, a single failure, a single weakness, or a version of you that no longer exists. Some came from memories you could not seem to silence. Others arose from within your own mind, repeating everything you wish you had done differently and reminding you of moments you would gladly erase if you could. You have carried regret as though regret were your identity. You have carried shame as though shame were your name. You have looked at mistakes and wondered whether they permanently changed the way I see you. You have questioned whether you somehow disqualified yourself from peace, restoration, or love. But hear me clearly, my beloved. The accusations are not the final word. The case you keep reopening in your thoughts has already been brought before me, and the verdict does not depend on the harsh conclusions you have drawn about yourself. You have measured yourself by your weakest moments, but I have never reduced your entire life to one chapter. You have remembered your failures more vividly than your growth, but I see the complete journey. I know where you stumbled, but I also know where you stood again. I know where fear influenced your choices, where pain distorted your reactions, where exhaustion weakened your judgment, and where wounds caused you to respond in ways you later regretted. Nothing is hidden from me, yet nothing I know about you has caused me to withdraw my love. The verdict is not based on pretending you were flawless. It is grounded in mercy greater than your mistakes and compassion deeper than your shame. The burden has reached its appointed end. The charges that have followed you in your mind do not possess unlimited authority. What has bound you through guilt, fear, and the constant feeling that you are somehow unworthy does not have permission to define your future. My child, there is a difference between acknowledging what was wrong and allowing what was wrong to become the definition of who you are. There is a difference between learning from the past and living imprisoned by it. I do not call you to deny what happened. I call you to stop bowing before it. You can admit where you failed without declaring yourself a failure. You can remember what hurt without allowing the wound to become your identity. You can recognize what needs healing without believing you are beyond restoration. Accusation always tries to turn an event into an identity. It whispers, "You made a mistake, therefore you are nothing but your mistake. You were rejected, therefore you are unworthy of love. You were betrayed, therefore you will always be abandoned. You struggled, therefore you are weak. You fell, therefore you will never rise." But my voice speaks differently. I know what happened, and I still call you mine. I know where you have been, and I still see value in you. I know the parts of your story you hide from others, and my love has not diminished. The foundation of your worth was never established by public approval, human applause, perfect behavior, or constant success. Your worth was established by me. You are accepted because my love is not a reward handed out only when you perform without error. You are treasured because you belong to me. You do not have to spend your days trying to earn what I have already chosen to give. You do not need to prove your right to be loved every morning and then fear losing that love by evening. My care is not that fragile. My presence does not disappear every time you struggle. My commitment to you is not rewritten whenever you feel weak. There are people whose words still echo in your mind because you gave their judgment more authority than it deserved. Perhaps someone told you that you would never change. Perhaps someone treated your vulnerability as evidence that you were insignificant. Perhaps someone repeatedly reminded you of your past because keeping you ashamed made it easier for them to control how you saw yourself. Perhaps no one said these things directly, yet their actions made you feel unwanted, replaceable, or inadequate. My beloved, their inability to recognize your worth does not erase the worth I placed within you. Human misunderstanding cannot overturn my knowledge of you. Rejection cannot cancel my acceptance. Condemnation cannot rewrite what I have spoken over your life. Even your own feelings cannot overrule the truth. Feelings can become intense, but intensity does not make them final. Shame may feel convincing, but it is not your judge. Fear may speak loudly, but volume is not authority. Memories may return suddenly, but their return does not mean you have been returned to the place from which you came. This is why I am asking you to stop treating every painful echo as a present sentence. Some things you still feel belong to a battle that has already ended. They continue because your heart has grown accustomed to expecting condemnation. You became so familiar with defending yourself that you forgot what it feels like to rest. You became so accustomed to imagining what others might say about you that you began judging yourself before anyone else had the opportunity. You rehearsed explanations for wounds no one was asking you to justify. You carried invisible arguments into quiet rooms. But you do not have to live that way any longer. I am not calling you to spend the rest of your life proving that you deserve another chance. I am calling you to receive the freedom that comes when you finally believe my word carries greater authority than accusation. The adversarial voice may gather every weakness, every wrong turn, every disappointment, and every painful memory, and present them as evidence that your future should be restricted. It may tell you that your failures are stronger than mercy, that your wounds have permanently damaged your purpose, or that your history gives darkness a permanent claim over your life. But that case cannot stand before me. I know every piece of evidence before it is presented, and still my compassion remains. The source of accusation may insist that you should be rejected, but my response is not confusion. I do not need to investigate whether you are worth loving. I already know you completely. I do not need to debate whether mercy should reach you. My mercy is already extended. The accusations lose their power because they cannot tell me anything about you that I do not already know. Understand what this means, my precious one. Freedom does not mean you will never remember the past again. It means the past no longer has the right to command you. Freedom does not mean you will never feel regret. It means regret can become wisdom rather than a prison. Freedom does not mean every person will understand you or change their opinion of you. It means their opinion no longer determines your identity. You may still hear echoes of old condemnation, but an echo is not a verdict. You may still feel the emotional residue of what you endured, but residue is not authority. The struggle may have left marks, yet those marks do not own you. What I have spoken remains stronger than what has been spoken against you. You are not abandoned. You are not disqualified. You are not defined by the worst thing you have done, the worst thing done to you, or the darkest moment you survived. You are still mine, so stop returning mentally to the courtroom as though the trial is still underway. Stop placing yourself back beneath charges that have already been answered. Stop asking shame for permission to move forward. You do not need its approval. Lift your head. Allow your heart to learn a new posture. Instead of waking each day asking whether you are worthy enough to be loved, begin from the truth that you are already loved and allow that love to transform how you live. Instead of allowing your past to announce what is possible, let my voice define what is true. The verdict is settled. Accusation does not own your identity. Shame does not hold the final word. Your worth has not disappeared. My love has not changed. What once held you beneath condemnation is losing its grip, and you are learning to stand not as someone waiting to discover whether they will be accepted, but as my beloved child who already knows where they belong. My beloved child, now that you are beginning to release the weight of accusation and understand that your past does not possess the authority to define you, I want you to recognize what is happening within you in this present season. Freedom is not simply the removal of what once held you back. Freedom also creates space for clearer sight, steadier judgment, and deeper understanding. I have not been working only to lift burdens from your shoulders. I have been preparing your spirit to recognize what you could not recognize before. Something within you has been changing quietly. You may have noticed that certain situations no longer confuse you the way they once did. You may have begun to see patterns that previously escaped your attention. You may sense things more clearly in relationships, conversations, motives, and circumstances that once left you uncertain. This is not because you have become suspicious of everyone around you. It is because you are learning to observe without allowing emotion to control what you see. There was a time when you reacted quickly because your heart was overwhelmed. There was a time when fear made every situation feel urgent and disappointment made every silence feel threatening. But I have been teaching you another way. I have been teaching you to become still enough to notice what is actually happening. I have been placing a quiet wisdom within you, a calm awareness that does not need to shout in order to be true. Recent experiences have awakened something that may feel strangely familiar, as though you are not discovering an entirely new truth, but remembering what your spirit already knew. This discernment has been growing beneath the surface. My child, think about how differently you have begun to respond. There were moments when you could have confronted someone immediately, yet something within you told you to remain quiet. There were situations in which you could have demanded answers, but instead you watched, you listened, you allowed time to reveal what words could not. You may have wondered whether your silence meant weakness, but sometimes silence was wisdom. Sometimes you did not need to expose what was wrong because time itself would uncover it. Sometimes you did not need to force another person to explain their heart because their repeated actions would eventually speak more clearly than any explanation they could offer. You gave people space, and in that space, character became visible. You allowed circumstances to unfold, and what had once seemed confusing began to make sense. You were not blind. You were learning. You were not passive, you were observing. You were not ignoring what was happening, you were allowing truth to come into focus without rushing to control the outcome. The original message describes this as a patient and discerning way of seeing, one in which the listener allows others to reveal who they truly are while remaining inwardly steady. My beloved, this kind of discernment matters because the next part of your journey requires more than emotion. There are things ahead that cannot be navigated wisely if every decision is made from fear, loneliness, excitement, pressure, or the need for immediate relief. I have been strengthening your inner life so that you can notice the difference between what feels powerful and what is actually good, between what appears convincing and what is genuinely trustworthy, between what speaks loudly and what carries peace. You are learning that not everything deserves an immediate response. Not every misunderstanding must become an argument. Not every accusation requires a defense. Not every uncomfortable moment means you must run, and not every pleasant moment means you should remain. Discernment is the ability to see beneath the surface, to recognize patterns, to notice what repeatedly produces peace and what repeatedly drains it, to understand when something is strengthening your spirit and when it is slowly pulling you away from who you are becoming. This wisdom is not being developed in you so that you will live guarded, cold, or suspicious. It is being developed so that you will stop surrendering your peace to confusion. I am teaching you to remain compassionate without becoming easily manipulated. I am teaching you to remain loving without ignoring what is unhealthy. I am teaching you to remain patient without abandoning your boundaries. I am teaching you that grace does not require blindness, and kindness does not require you to deny what you clearly see. Some of your deepest lessons have come through situations you once wished would disappear. Certain people revealed things about themselves that you needed to understand. Certain disappointments exposed where you were placing too much trust. Certain moments of tension showed you where your boundaries had become weak. Even your own reactions taught you something about wounds that still needed healing. Nothing was wasted. What once felt like confusion has become instruction. What once felt like delay has given you time to observe. What once felt like emotional distance has sometimes allowed you to see without being overwhelmed by attachment. I have been using these experiences to refine the way you perceive your life. My child, there is also something else I want you to recognize. Clarity often arrives quietly. You may have expected wisdom to come through dramatic signs, overwhelming feelings, or unmistakable events, yet some of the most important understanding has come through a simple inner knowing. A conversation felt different. A familiar pattern suddenly became obvious. Something once attractive no longer carried the same appeal. A relationship you kept explaining began to reveal itself without explanation. A path you once felt desperate to pursue no longer felt as necessary. These small shifts matter. They are evidence that you are changing. You are no longer looking at everything through the same emotional lens you carried in earlier seasons. I am helping you see more clearly because I am preparing you to move more wisely. The Source portrays this preparation as part of a larger divine movement already taking place in practical areas of life, including the listener's relationships, purpose, well-being, and path forward. Do not become impatient with this process. You do not need to understand everything at once. Discernment grows as you remain honest, attentive, and willing to learn. Continue watching what produces lasting peace rather than temporary excitement. Notice what strengthens your character instead of merely satisfying an immediate desire. Pay attention to repeated patterns rather than isolated promises. Listen carefully not only to what people say, but to what their actions consistently reveal. And when you recognize a truth, do not immediately doubt yourself simply because accepting it is uncomfortable. There were times when you sensed something was wrong but talked yourself out of what you saw because you wanted a different outcome. There were times when your heart understood before your mind was ready to accept it. I am teaching you not to fear that clarity. Truth may be uncomfortable at first, but confusion is far more costly when you remain in it for too long. My beloved child, you are not standing where you once stood. You have learned through pain, through waiting, through observation, and through the quiet strengthening of your spirit. The chains that kept pulling your attention backward are losing their weight, and your eyes are becoming clearer for what lies ahead. You do not need to rush into the next chapter. For now, recognize what has already changed within you. You are becoming more patient without becoming passive, more compassionate without becoming naive, more observant without becoming fearful, and more grounded without becoming closed. This is preparation. This is growth. This is the beginning of a wiser way of walking, and the discernment forming within you will become one of the greatest protections and strengths you carry into the season ahead. You have been learning to see more clearly, and that growing discernment is not without purpose. I am preparing you because there are moments ahead when clarity will matter more than speed, and wisdom will matter more than emotion. I do not tell you this to make you afraid. I tell you because I love you too deeply to let you walk carelessly into something that could wound your peace, distract your spirit, or pull you away from what I am building within you. There is a season approaching that will require your attention. It may involve choices, relationships, opportunities, responsibilities, or circumstances that appear ordinary on the surface, yet carry greater weight than you first realize. You will not need to panic. You will not need to live suspiciously, but you will need to listen. You will need to slow the pace of your heart enough to recognize when I am telling you to move and when I am telling you to wait. The source speaks of an approaching period of testing and difficulty, but it presents that warning as guidance intended to keep the listener from unnecessary suffering rather than as a reason to live in fear. My child, there are decisions you can make quickly and recover from easily, but there are other decisions that open doors into seasons you cannot reverse as quickly. This is why I am teaching you not to confuse urgency with direction. Something may feel urgent because other people are pressuring you. It may feel urgent because you are tired of waiting. It may feel urgent because you are afraid that if you do not act immediately, you will lose an opportunity forever. But fear of missing something is not the same as my guidance. Pressure is not always confirmation. Excitement is not always peace. I want you to become comfortable with the sacred discipline of pausing. Before you agree, pause. Before you commit, pause. Before you return to something you already walked away from, pause. Before you speak words you cannot easily take back, pause. Before you place your trust somewhere, simply because you are lonely, pause. Bring the matter before me. Let the noise settle. Let the emotional rush become quiet enough for truth to rise. I know how difficult this can be for you because you have often believed that taking immediate action makes you strong. But sometimes the strongest thing you can do is wait until you can see clearly. There are certain people from whom you may need greater distance. There are habits that may need to end. There are patterns that once felt normal but now interfere with your ability to hear clearly. Your life may have become so crowded with responsibilities, opinions, conversations, notifications, worries, and expectations that my quiet direction struggles to reach the center of your attention. The message calls the listener to step away from certain people and practices, slow the pace of daily life, turn attention toward God, and release the belief that every outcome must be controlled personally. I am not asking you to withdraw from life. I am asking you to stop allowing constant noise to make your choices for you. When your spirit is exhausted, you can mistake relief for wisdom. When you have been lonely for too long, you can mistake attention for love. When you have been disappointed repeatedly, you can mistake any open door for rescue. This is why you must become careful about what you call a blessing, simply because it arrives at the moment you are tired of waiting. Not every opportunity that appears before you is one you must accept. Not every person who returns deserves the same place they once held. Not every door that opens leads toward the life I am shaping in you. Some doors look attractive because they appeal to a wound rather than to wisdom. Some paths seem easier because they promise immediate comfort while quietly moving you away from peace. Some offers sound perfect because they tell you exactly what you hope to hear. yet the outcome may carry burdens you cannot see from the entrance. My beloved, learn this well. An open door is not automatically permission. A delay is not automatically denial. A closed door is not automatically punishment. What looks like an interruption may be protection. What feels like a disappointing pause may be the very thing that prevents you from walking into unnecessary pain. The Source emphasizes that what appears to be a wrong turn or delay may actually serve as protection, and that not every opportunity or open path should be followed simply because it becomes available. There may soon be a decision that feels especially important to you. Perhaps you have already been thinking about it. Perhaps you have been rehearsing the possible outcomes in your mind. Perhaps part of you is ready to act simply because uncertainty has become uncomfortable. But I am telling you now, do not let discomfort make the decision for you. Do not rush simply because waiting feels difficult. Bring the matter to me again. Be willing to hear an answer that is different from the one you hope to receive. Trust that if I tell you to wait, I am not withholding goodness from you. Trust that if I close something, I am not trying to diminish your life. Trust that if I disturb your peace around a choice, there may be something you do not yet see. You view the beginning of a path. I see where it leads. You see the invitation. I see what comes after the acceptance. You see what someone promises. I see what repeated patterns will eventually reveal. This is why your closeness to me matters more now than your ability to predict every outcome. You do not need complete knowledge. You need a willing heart. You do not need to know everything that is coming. You need to be responsive when I tell you to stop, continue, wait, release, or turn away. My child, do not be afraid of the seriousness of this season. Serious does not mean hopeless. Urgent does not mean dangerous if you remain attentive. I am warning you because I intend to guide you, not because I intend to abandon you. I am calling you closer because I want your decisions to arise from peace rather than panic. I want you to become so familiar with my quiet direction that you no longer need dramatic signs to recognize when something is wrong. Pay attention to the hesitation you cannot explain. Pay attention when peace consistently disappears around a certain path. Pay attention when you keep needing to justify what your spirit already knows is unhealthy. And when clarity comes, have the courage to honor it. You have been given discernment for a reason. Use it now. Slow down, listen. Refuse to let pressure decide your future. Refuse to let loneliness reopen doors that wisdom already closed. Refuse to let fear convince you that you must seize every opportunity immediately. What is truly meant to serve your good will not require you to abandon the peace, wisdom, and clarity I have been building within you. Walk carefully, but do not walk fearfully. I am not asking you to dread what lies ahead. I am asking you to stay close enough to hear me before you choose. You have learned to slow down, to listen more carefully, and to recognize that wisdom often asks you to pause before you choose. But now I want you to understand something equally important. Your choices still matter. My knowledge of what lies ahead does not make your life meaningless, and my awareness of every possible outcome does not remove your responsibility to respond with faith, humility, and love. You are not a powerless observer being carried toward a future you cannot influence. I have invited you into relationship with me, and within that relationship your prayers matter, your decisions matter, your obedience matters, and the way you treat others matters. The Source makes this clear by emphasizing that circumstances are not always fixed beyond change, that sincere prayer can affect what unfolds, and that closeness with me can open new possibilities within situations that once seemed certain. My child, do not underestimate the power of the small choices you make when no one is watching. A quiet decision to forgive may seem insignificant, yet it can free your heart from years of bitterness. A moment of kindness offered when anger would be easier can interrupt a pattern that has been repeated for generations. A prayer whispered in honesty can redirect the condition of your heart before that condition shapes your actions. A decision to do what is right when no recognition follows can strengthen something within you that will become essential later. You often look for dramatic turning points, But many of the most important changes in your life begin through ordinary acts of faithfulness. The way you respond when you are disappointed matters. The words you choose when you feel misunderstood matter. The way you carry yourself when you could easily become harsh matters. I see these things. Nothing done with sincerity is wasted. The message repeatedly calls you to choose kindness, forgiveness, integrity, and prayer, even when the immediate results are not visible, because these choices strengthen your inner life and prepare you for what is still ahead. There will be moments when doing what is right feels unrewarded. You may forgive and still not receive an apology. You may act with compassion and still be misunderstood. You may pray faithfully and still experience delay. You may choose peace while someone else chooses conflict. Do not let those moments convince you that obedience is pointless. Your goodness is not wasted simply because another person fails to recognize it. Your faithfulness is not empty simply because the outcome looks different from what you hoped. I am shaping more within you than you can measure by immediate circumstances. Every time you refuse to become what wounded you, you grow stronger. Every time you choose truth over resentment, your spirit becomes freer. Every time you return to me instead of allowing fear to control you, you are building a foundation that cannot easily be shaken. And if hardship still comes, do not interpret it as proof that you failed to hear me. There are difficulties that can be avoided through wisdom, but there are also difficulties that become part of your growth. Faith does not mean you will never walk through pain. Prayer does not mean every uncomfortable season disappears. Obedience does not guarantee that others will always treat you fairly. My beloved, hardship is not evidence of my absence. Some of the deepest transformations in your life will happen in places you would never have chosen willingly. There are seasons when suffering exposes what comfort allowed you to ignore. There are moments when loss reveals where you had placed your security. There are trials that strip away false confidence and teach you how much strength I have already placed within you. This does not mean I delight in your pain. I do not. But I refuse to let pain have the final word over your life. What enters your story as sorrow can still become a place of renewal. What begins as disappointment can still produce wisdom. What feels like breaking can become the place where something healthier is rebuilt. The source presents hardship not as proof of abandonment, but as a possible place of refinement, deeper closeness, renewed understanding, and restoration. When difficult moments come, bring your real heart to me. Do not perform strength you do not possess. Do not pretend to be peaceful when you are afraid. Do not offer me polished words while hiding what is actually happening within you. I already know. Speak honestly. Tell me when you are tired. Tell me when you are angry. Tell me when you do not understand. Tell me when you are afraid of losing something. Tell me when your faith feels smaller than the challenge in front of you. I am not threatened by your questions, and I am not disappointed by your honesty. Surrender begins when you stop pretending you are in control and allow yourself to be known completely. True prayer is not a performance designed to impress me. It is relationship. It is the place where you stop carrying everything alone and place what you cannot control into my hands. There may be answers you do not immediately understand. There may be times when what you ask for arrives differently from what you imagined. Yet trust that I am not careless with your life. I see beyond the immediate moment. I understand what will strengthen you, what will preserve your peace, and what will prepare you for the purpose still unfolding. My child, I also want you to release the belief that restoration must look like returning everything to exactly how it was before. Sometimes restoration means healing what was damaged. Sometimes it means rebuilding something stronger. Sometimes it means recovering joy after a season that convinced you joy was gone forever. Sometimes it means regaining confidence, tenderness, courage, or peace that hardship slowly drained from you. I restore more than circumstances. I restore hearts. I restore the ability to hope. I restore the desire to love again after betrayal. I restore strength after exhaustion. I restore meaning to chapters you once believed were wasted. What appears lost to you is not always beyond my reach. The source declares that I can rebuild what seems broken, restore what others consider lost, and breathe life into what appears finished. So do not spend all your energy asking how to escape every difficult thing. Ask instead how you can remain faithful within whatever comes. Ask how you can keep your heart soft without becoming weak. Ask how you can forgive without returning to bitterness. Ask how you can remain truthful without becoming cruel. Ask how you can pray without demanding that every answer take the form you expected. Your strength will not come from controlling every circumstance. It will come from knowing where to turn when circumstances exceed your control. My beloved child, let this become the posture of your next season. Pray honestly, choose carefully, forgive freely, act with integrity, and surrender what you cannot command. If hardship comes, let it deepen you rather than harden you. If disappointment comes, bring it to me before it becomes bitterness. If restoration begins slowly, do not despise the small signs of healing. You are not being asked to walk perfectly. You are being asked to keep returning to me, to keep choosing what is good, and to keep believing that even what hurts can be transformed when it is placed in my hands. Your choices matter, your prayers matter, your faithfulness matters, and no surrendered part of your story is beyond the reach of restoration. My beloved child, you have reached the place where you must stop judging your entire journey by what you can see from where you stand today. Your perspective is real, but it is limited. You see moments. I see the whole story. You see what was lost, what failed to happen, what ended unexpectedly, what was taken from your hands, and what did not unfold the way you had hoped. I see what those things were connected to, what they would have produced, what they were preventing, and what I was preparing beyond them. There have been events in your life that appeared random, disappointing, or deeply unfair, yet you could not see what was taking place beyond your immediate understanding. Some things were shifting long before you recognized them. Some victories were being secured while you believed nothing was happening. Some circumstances you called coincidence were part of a much larger movement that you could not yet perceive. My child, this is why I am asking you to trust me with the doors that did not open. You have spent too much time standing before certain closed places, wondering what would have happened if you had tried harder, waited longer, spoken differently, or become someone else. You have revisited conversations in your mind. You have imagined alternate endings. You have questioned whether you lost something you were supposed to have. But not every closed door represents failure. Not every ending means you were rejected. Not every unanswered request means you were ignored. There were things you desired because they looked beautiful from the outside, yet you could not see what they would have required from you later. There were opportunities you prayed for that carried consequences hidden behind their appearance. There were people you wanted to remain in your life who might eventually have pulled you further from peace, truth, or purpose. There were outcomes you believed would make you happy that could have become burdens once you were inside them. The source explains that some things were withheld because what looked like a blessing could have become a weight, a hindrance, or a detour from the listener's true purpose. Do not confuse my refusal with cruelty. Do not interpret every delay as abandonment. Sometimes love protects by saying no. Sometimes protection looks like separation. Sometimes preparation looks like disappointment because you do not yet know what is being prepared. You may look at a situation and say, everything fell apart, while I am looking at the same moment and saying, something new can finally be built. You may look at an ending and see emptiness, while I see room. You may see a loss of direction, while I see you being redirected away from something that could not carry the future I am forming within you. My beloved, you do not have to understand every closed door before you release it. Some answers will come later. Some may never arrive in the form you expected. Peace does not require complete explanation. Sometimes peace begins when you stop demanding that the past justify itself before you allow yourself to move forward. There are doors behind you that you keep checking because part of your heart still hopes they will reopen. But I am asking you to consider whether your attachment to what is closed is preventing you from noticing what is opening elsewhere. You cannot walk confidently into a new chapter while constantly looking over your shoulder. You cannot fully receive a new direction while measuring everything against what you lost. There are seasons that must be honored for what they taught you and then released for what they can no longer become. You do not have to hate the past to leave it behind. You do not have to deny that something mattered in order to accept that its season has ended. You can be grateful for what was good, honest about what hurt, and still choose to move forward. My child, I have been speaking to you quietly through many of these transitions. There were moments when you felt a hesitation you could not explain. There were times when something within you knew not to return. There were moments when an old path became available again, yet the peace you once associated with it was gone. Pay attention to those things. I am teaching you to honor what has been revealed rather than continually asking for another sign because the first answer was difficult to accept. You have already learned that your choices carry weight. Now let that understanding become action. Pause when I nudge you. Choose kindness when resentment would be easier. Forgive when your heart wants to remain closed. Live truthfully even when no one rewards you for it. Do not merely admire wisdom, practice it. Do not merely listen to guidance, respond to it. The closing portion of the source turns the message into a direct assignment. Do not only hear, but act. Pause when prompted, choose kindness, forgive, remain close, and allow your choices to create light beyond your own life. My beloved child, the new chapter ahead will not be built by endlessly examining what I already moved you beyond. It will be built through the decisions you make now. There are new paths I am preparing, but you must be willing to release your demand that they resemble the old ones. There are new relationships, new opportunities, new forms of growth, new understanding, and new ways of experiencing peace that may not look like what you once imagined. Do not reject what is new simply because it arrives differently. Do not return to familiar pain merely because unfamiliar peace feels strange. Growth often requires you to become comfortable with what you have never known before. If chaos was familiar, peace may initially feel empty. If you spent years proving yourself, acceptance may feel undeserved. If you became accustomed to chasing what kept moving away, something steady may seem less exciting. But do not confuse familiarity with destiny. I am leading you beyond patterns that once controlled your choices. Let what is healthy become familiar now. Let peace become familiar. Let clarity become familiar. Let honest prayer become familiar. Let boundaries become familiar. Let walking forward without constant regret become familiar. My child, your story is still unfolding. Nothing you have endured has forced me to abandon the purpose within your life. Nothing you lost has emptied the future of meaning. Nothing behind you is more powerful than what can still be formed ahead. So rise from the places where you have been waiting for old doors to explain why they closed. Lift your eyes, carry the wisdom but leave the weight. Carry the lesson but leave the shame. Carry the love but release what can no longer remain. Walk forward with a heart that is open, attentive, and willing to obey. I am not asking you to know the entire road before you begin. I am asking you to trust that the one who sees the whole journey can guide the next step. What was closed behind you does not deserve more of your attention than what is being prepared before you. Your life is not ending at the place of disappointment. You are being redirected, refined, and called forward. The next chapter will not require you to become someone entirely different. It will require you to live faithfully according to what you have already learned. Trust the closed doors. Honor the clarity you have received. Remain close to me, and walk into what comes next with peace, courage, and the quiet confidence that your story is still being written.